Now, Mr. Rega, I did want to ask you a certain question here about sporrans.
I'm your Huckleberry.
Hippie Don 94. Actually, this is going to be more me, I think. But so why why are simple leather pouch sporrans called Rob Roy sporrans when the evidence suggests he used a brass cantled sporran, which was becoming much more the popular fashion during the early 18th century? So why are we calling pouch sporrans Rob Roy sporrans when he probably didn't own
Actually,
one?
yes.
So-
Do we know when Rob Roy was alive? Well,
Oh, bloody
it
hell.
exists. I didn't know if you knew off the top.
17...
So Rob Roy was born in
I get the years of his life.
and died in.
He saw the. I think he saw the first Jacobite uprising. Was that it? Somebody out there can tell me.
Okay.
But he did command some troops at one battle, at one point, and then part of the questionability of his reputation was like, did he actually fight or not, or was it?
I am less versed in you than that.
It's been a long time since I read about him.
A lot of Highland wear in general. I shouldn't say a lot, but certain parts of Highland wear come down to, at the risk of sounding harsh, marketing terms.
Mm-hmm.
So a hunting sporran isn't because you need that particular sporran to go hunting in. A Prince Charlie jacket and vest is not a jacket worn by Prince Charles Edward Stuart. It's not. They use there's certain terminology that is kind of used as like, hey, we need to call this thing a thing. What do we want to call it? Mm-hmm. In the same way that there's a lot of Martin Mills uses for their types of cloth, their weights of cloth. They'll call it Jura versus Butte. They just name them after isles. A lot of companies do that. They use either landmarks or islands or regions or whatever to name different lines of things. The company Muckross, where we get a lot of our purses from, they name their different handbags women's names. So you have to call it something. So might as well give it a creative name. So let's call them women's names. Let's call them islands. The same kind of thing goes for Highland wear, and that's kind of where I'm thinking it probably got its name, was like, hey, what do we call this bag style sporran? Well, who is a famous, a common name from a couple hundred years ago? Rob Roy. Let's call it a Rob Roy sporran. I had to, do the Occam's razor, the, kind of thing, it's probably where I would guess that it came from.
Spoiler alert. We actually arranged an image to prove this point.
Am I right?
You are correct. Ding, 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 ding.
We didn't arrange the image. Eric did. That was my honest guessing answer.
Hey, Cambot, put it up on Still Store.
Whoop, whoop.
So, this is a Highland Dress catalog page from, I believe...
William Anderson and Sons.
Yes, William Anderson and Sons, Limited.
Who had locations in both Edinburgh and Glasgow.
Yeah. And this is from 1936, if memory serves. And this is one of the earliest references of somebody calling a sporran of this type a Rob Roy sporran. It seems like the name did become popular in like the 1930s. So there you have it. Ta-ta. So here's the thing. The evidence that the asker mentioned about Rob Roy's actual sporrans, there's two sporrans which are claimed to have possibly belonged to him. One is at Inverary Castle, and the other one is at Abbotsford. It was the part of the collection of Sir Walter Scott. They are both cantled sporrans with a very simple brass cantle over the top. Did they actually belong to the historic Rob Roy? No clue. Given how these things go, I wouldn't bet money on it, frankly. But yeah, the thing is, the very, very earliest sporrans and the easiest to make, especially if you're making it yourself, was the classic drawstring bag with a flap, which is actually the sporran, which is the direct evolution of medieval belt pouches, which go back hundreds of years through the Renaissance into the Middle Ages. It's just a really easy way to make a bag which is secure and your stuff is not going to fall out of. So if you wanted something that felt more romantically primitive, you're looking at museum pieces. There are a couple of drawstring bag sporrans in like the National Museum. And so designers in the 20th century said, that's a really super old sporran. Let's do that. And let's name it after one of the earliest possible Scottish heroes. Ta-da. That's how it happened.
I wonder. I'm putting things together in my brain, and this is a question for you. Actually, it's a question. It's more for a question for like Peter McDonald. With Rob Roy sporrans kind of starting in the 1930s, if that's the earliest example. Let's assume that that's correct as a date. And with the ghillie shirt or the Highland shirt being kind of romanticized, invented, so to speak, in the 1940s, 50s.
40s, 50s, we think, yeah.
With the reproduction colors, aka weathered colors, from Dalgleish starting in the 1950s, and that whole marketing story. Was there a renaissance, a throwback, let's do something that is more historical looking in the 30s, 40s, 50s than there was previous? And is that the pendulum swinging the other direction from the 1900s, 1910s, 1920s, more, tight-laced, wearing it as formal wear, what we think of as traditional Highland dress? Was this the pendulum swinging the other way than the decades directly afterwards?
I think for sure there was, because fashion does that, and it's romanticism. It is a double-edged sword of Scottish culture and history that romanticism always plays a major part. So if you're coming off of a period where everyone is being much more gentlemanly, and it's either tweeds and smart day wear because you're going to the Highland Games, or it's full dress with a jabot and velvet doublet for evening, and you want something a little more romantic and fun, you're going to think more primitive. We usually think romanticism usually equals to something a little bit more primitive. And the media is a huge part. You had the first, you had the Rob Roy film that came out in the 20s, which was a silent film. Then in the 50s, you have the Disney Rob Roy film. So a lot of our images of the rugged individualist Highlander hero with the sword and everything and running around the Highlands slaying English kind of comes from it's the media. As always, the media is influencing things. So I think you're absolutely right.
I wasn't thinking that when I was piecing those things together in my brain, but maybe we should do a little bit of research on that. I like,
as you wish, my lord.
Yeah, one of the things that I like doing is kind of piecing things together in history and watching the evolution of the thing and the ebbs and flows of certain trends within the thing, specific Highland wear for us. But yeah,
I like blood and guts personally, but that's my question on the group the other day. My friends of the jury, Exhibit A, this is a Rob Roy sporran. Exhibit B, this is a 16th century belt pouch. Spot the difference. There is none. Rob Roy sporrans are great for a historical look or just a kind of fantastical look or a very casual, comfortable, I don't care what happens to it today, sporran for every day. Check ours out on usakilts.com.